A very good morning to all. Welcome back to today's session. Yesterday we have finished session number 63. Now we are going to continue our session number 64. Open your textbooks, page number 117. Now we are continuing agents that help ovary or flower to develop into fruit. Yesterday we have learned that ovary develops into fruit and ovules develop into seeds. Now about the ovary that develop into a fruit. Observe a bottle gourd plant in a garden. It has unisexual flowers, that is male and female flowers separately. Bottle gourd. If you observe the bottle gourd plant, you can see that the plant contains male flower as well as female flowers. Select 10 female buds of bottle gourd. Cover with a polythene bag, loosely tying the bag on a stalk. Make some tiny holes in the bag with the help of a pin. So you have to select the 10 female birds and tie that with the help of a polythene bag and make some holes on the polythene bag. 2 days later, observe the birds blooming. Now collect the pollen grains from a male flower of the bottle gourd plant. Pluck the stamens of male flower and shake to collect pollen grains in a sheet of paper. Twisting cotton wool over the tip of a matchstick prepares a brush. Now uncover 5 of the 10 female flowers. So, after 2 days, you can observe that the birds, the 10 female birds that we have kept under polythene bag will start blooming. Now, you have to collect the pollen grains from a male flower. This we have done for female flower. Now, at the same time, you have to collect the pollen grains from a male flower. Now, uncover 5 of the 10 female flowers. Now, we have to uncover. That means, you have to remove the polythene bag for 5 female flowers. Apply the pollen grains on the stigma of these flowers with a brush. Now take a smooth brush, then apply the pollen grains of male flower on the 5 female flowers. The pollen grains stick to the stigma. Cover the flowers again with polythene bag. Then afterwards, again you have to cover the polythene bag. Remove all male flowers from the plant so that no pollen grain reaches the remaining female flowers. Now, remove the remaining male flowers from the plant. That means it should not reach to the female flower. With the help of a brush, you have to take the stigma of pollen grains from the male flower. Now apply to the stigma of the female flower. Just you apply. Immediately it will catch. Then afterwards again you tie with a polythene bag. The transfer of pollen grains from one another to stigma is known as pollination. Now what is that we have done? We have transferred the pollen grains from male flower to the stigma of female flower. This process is called as pollination. This is very important line. After 1 week, observe both pollinated and non-pollinated flowers. Pollinated flowers develop into fruits, whereas non-pollinated flowers do not. Now only 5 of the flowers we have done pollination. We have covered with a polythene bag, no? And here 5. For these 5 we have applied, for the female flowers we have applied the male pollen grains. And for this we have not applied. So after 1 week, what can you see? These flowers, after 1 week, observe both pollinated and non-pollinated. Pollinated flowers will develop into fruits. So these pollinated flowers will develop into fruits. These are called as pollinated flowers. Why? Because on the female flower we have applied the male flowers pollen grains. So these are called as pollinated flowers. These are called as pollinated flowers, and this is called as non-pollinated flowers. Now after 1 week, observe both pollinated flower and unpollinated flower, non-pollinated flower. So when you observe after 1 week, you can see that these pollinated flowers will become into fruits and this will not become into fruits. Why is it necessary to begin this experiment with birds in which sepals are closed? Why are the birds enclosed in polythene bags? Why are the non-pollinated flowers also covered with polythene bags? Why is that we have covered these non-pollinated flowers also with polythene bag? So that another pollen grains should not reach to the pollen grains of this flower. By this experiment, we come to know that significant role is played by male flower in the formation of fruit. By this we are able to understand that when the male pollen grains reach to the female flowers, a fruit is developed. So here the male pollen grains are playing an important role. So why are the birds enclosed in polythene bag? So that it should not be dispersed by wind. And we have kept some holes so that it should get air. Why is it necessary to begin this experiment with the birds in which sepals are closed? Yes. The reproduction starts only in the birds. Next. If transfer of pollen grains takes place within the flower, it is known as self-pollination. So for every plant, we are not doing in this way. The plant itself, it will make the pollination. That is called as self-pollination. Transfer of pollen grain from one flower to stigma of another flower of same species is called as cross-pollination. Same species in the sense, same flower. We have now we have talked about the bottle gourd plant. So if the pollination occurs in the same bottle gourd plant, both male and female flowers are present. So this type of pollination is called as cross-pollination. And if the transfer of pollens taken place by themselves, then it is called as self-pollination. We have learned about the pollination, self-pollination, cross-pollination, pollinated flower, non-pollinated flower. Now, agents of pollination. Here we have transferred the pollen grains from one flower to another flower by ourselves with the help of our hands. So this is called as a cross-pollination. And now what are the agents of pollination? How do these pollen grains fall on the stigma? For every plant we are not doing this. Then how does the fruits are coming? Air, water, animals, insects, humans act as agents of pollination. So sometimes this pollination occurs with the help of the air. So what does the air do? It will carry the pollen grains from male flower and it will leave on the female flower. So this air is called as agent. Sometimes with the help of water. Even water will also carry the pollen grains from one flower and it will stop on another flower. So air, water, birds, animals, insects, human beings. All these are called as agents of pollination. These all are called as agents of pollination. How? They carry pollen grains from anther to the stigma. Sometimes air, sometimes water, sometimes birds, sometimes animals, sometimes human beings. Insects like butterflies suck nectar from flowers. At the time, pollen grains of that flower stick to the legs of the butterfly. So what does butterfly do? The insects like butterflies, they suck the nectar from the flower. This is a flower. So here you can observe the pollen grains. And what does the butterfly do? It will suck the nectar. So while this process, these pollen grains will stick to the legs of the butterfly. When the butterfly goes to the another flower for nectar, the pollen grain that have stuck to its leg will fall on that and flower. So the butterfly from here will fly, and again it will go to another flower. So when it comes to this flower, the pollen grains that are stick to the legs of the butterfly will fall on this flower. So here the pollination occurs. So when the butterfly reaches from one flower to another flower, the pollen grains from male flower to the female flower will reach with the help of the legs of the butterfly. So in this way here the pollination occurs. In the same way, air carries pollen grains from this flower to another flower. And sometimes we will throw by our hand, and sometimes animals in the same way, the pollen grains stick to the animals and they will fall on the other plant. So in this way the pollination occurs. So these are called as the agents of pollination. Take out page number 113. Here they have given the do you know box. Birds and insects are the natural agents for pollination. That means unknowingly the birds and the insects will carry the pollen grains, and because of them the pollination occurs. So they are called as natural agents. Nowadays farmers use pesticides to control pests on crops. Yes, farmers here are using pesticides and insecticides. Why? Because there are a lot of pests on the crops. Chala panta purugu padutundi. The enormous use of pesticides kill insects also. So ekku pesticides cheyadam valla insects chenipotayi. It affects pollination. So during this process they are using the chemicals, no? So when they are using the chemicals, the pollen grains are not growing properly. Crop yield. So this affects the pollination. That means the insects, those who are carrying, these are the agents, no? The insects that are carrying the pollen grains are the agents. So the farmers, when they are using the pesticides, the agents are dying. So this affects the pollination. Crop yield become reduced, particularly in sunflower crop. So this affects more on the sunflower crop. The rate of pollination is reduced because of the lack of insects in the field. So the rate of pollination has reduced. Naturally, the insects will carry the pollen grains and the pollination occurs. But here the rate of pollination is reducing day by day. Why? Because these insects are dying due to the usage of the pesticides by farmers. Think how we destroy our beautiful nature. So adavilo andaru manam velli okkoka chettu pettalem kada. It happens with the help of the animals and the insects. So when we are using these pesticides and the insecticides, indirectly we are killing the insects, and this affects on the pollination. So in this way we are losing our beauty, the beauty of our nature. So next, what happens to the pollen grain after pollination? This will be continued tomorrow. And today's homework. Today this is today up to here we have finished the class. Remaining will be continued tomorrow. And today's homework is that write question number 1 and 2, 3. Learn and write 3 question answers one time from lesson number 12. Learn and write lesson 12. 1, 2, 3 question and answers one time. This is the homework for you. Make sure that you have to learn the question answers also. I think it is clear. Learn and write lesson 12, 1, 2, 3 question answers one time, and make sure that you have to learn it properly. Please send the name while you are sending me the homework. Thank you, children.